you take an industry partner's perspective, and you've kind of, I know when you started, there wasn't a lot of information out there about DSOs or groups, right?
Yeah.
And now the tables have turned. And so can you give me a little bit of insight into your mindset of how things were when you started and how they are now?
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, if you look back again, it wasn't too long ago in 2014, 2015 timeframe, trying to find content out there, even on the wire, right? And deal with DSOs or groups, there was not much. There was a lot of negative information out there, and not necessarily on the wire, but through Facebook and social media. And what we wanted to do really is, we wanted to be, so I get to say this right. We wanted to be like Switzerland. So we're pro DSO, pro group practice, which kind of wasn't even a thing back then. But we didn't want to necessarily say this model's better than this. We just wanted to say, hey, this makes sense for the industry. It might not make sense for you, but you need to be aware of it, and it makes sense for a lot of people, and deliver the content that way. We were Kim and I kind of we would strategize every week and go, what are we going to write about this week? There's nothing out there to talk about. You normally kind of look at what other people might be doing, or, what Aspen might have put out or Heartland might have put out at the time, and go, oh.
Responding to the news, right? We see that on the news all the time, where someone releases news and then there's news on that news and news on that news. But when there's no news, then So so what we tried to do is kind of, back to your point, we said, okay, well, we know the manufacturers really well, the industry partners. Let's get some perspective from them, what they're seeing, because a lot of them had 30,000 foot view. They were working with all the different groups, and they could kind of tell you what's going on. Brian Kaleo over at Dykema was somebody that worked with us early on, had great perspective, being there on the M&A side of things, and setting up legal structures, and can give us perspective. And it's just funny, again, going back to the origins of the platform. We had somebody from Gary Picard he's from Pacific Dental. He's been there forever, and he was seeing what we were doing, and he's like, we need to have a meeting. I'm not sure what you guys are up to. Again, there was a lot of, I think, suspicion back then of, okay, somebody's out there talking about DSOs, and normally it's negative. And I wanted to reassure them that, hey, no, we believe in the model. So just really funny how things have changed. Yeah. And people used to lay low. And so now it's not that way anymore, right? Now people are talking about how great our culture is, or how great our atmosphere inside our DSO is. And so tell me a little bit about what you're seeing now in the landscape of information out there, and how you've adapted to it.
Yeah, you better not be laying low at this point, right, Gary? I think there's still some people that might for whatever reason. And again, it takes work. And even if you're a big DSO, you may be really good at marketing. And when we say marketing, getting patients to your practices, or maybe even patient retention.
B2C.
But can you market beyond the patient, right? So how do you create a marketing campaign really based around recruitment for docs, non-clinician, right, whatever, and then also for potential acquisition. So why, if I have 2 or 3 locations or a single location, why would I want to partner with XYZ DSO when, I hear about all these great things from the ones that really do a good job of marketing out there. So you do see a lot more activity, but I still think the industry has quite a bit of a ways to go. I see some even like DSO websites, at the support side of things. If I'm a dentist, and I'm looking to sell, or I'm looking for a career opportunity, I'm not going to the Grand Rapids location website, right? I want to go to the support website, and can I even find it? What's the messaging there?
Yeah, I love this topic. So this is like my love language, and this is really where our focus at SMC has been for really right after the COVID, because so many people needed it. There's first of all, marketing to patients is B to C, right? And that's a very particular kind of marketing. And there's really honestly an abundance of patients. If you learn what roadblocks to remove, there's plenty of patients for all the dentists out there. Where it gets sticky, then to your point, is when you're marketing more B2B, and that is the employer brand, and that's the acquisition model to get your name out there and really market who you are at the DSO level. And that's something that I think, yeah, you're 100% right. There's just not a lot of activity there, and which is awesome, because if you're a first mover in that space, you can really take advantage of it. And I've seen several people jump into those waters and do it properly and really level up their employer brand, which means they're getting all the top talent or first pick at the top talent, and then also level up their acquisition, which means they're getting first pick of people wanting to sell their practices. So it's kind of the situation of where the rich get richer in that situation, but you can move into this space and compete with the big dogs because the internet allows you to now in this space. Just like you guys jumped in and started building a LinkedIn presence, there wasn't a lot of resistance there because you guys were in a space that was not a lot of people were providing content. So I love that. So where do you see the industry heading when it comes to those things? What's your crystal ball tell you?
Well, I think there's some people out, so you're going to have to get pretty creative. Number one, if you're a DSO, as the market gets a little bit more crowded, and it is, and that's opportunity. It's great for docs looking to sell. It's great for, career seekers for sure. But there's definitely a challenge there. And, I'll just give a couple, for instances, like I love, I'll call out a couple groups. I won't say the ones that are doing it wrong. I'll say the ones that are doing it right. I love MB2. Yeah. I mean, they created that DPO, right? Yep. They did deliveries like, what's a DPO, right? Oh, wow, that sounds better than a DSO. So there's some, they've really created, this new term that didn't exist. And it is a little bit different. But, my point is it's like, that's theirs. And they created that. Some others have kind of, glommed onto it a little bit. But you have to try and figure out, how you differentiate yourselves. And I think everybody does. They may not know how to articulate that. And then from there, you've got to articulate it and then figure out a way to market it correctly. But I really love what they've done. I think some of the websites that I've seen that have done really well, are the ones, the DSOs that are creating stories. So on the recruiting side, it's hygiene. Let's talk about a hygienist and why they've come over to Heartland, for example, and what's the career look like, and what do the career opportunities look like? Because obviously it's tough to find people nowadays. So beyond just the job or the money, what else is there? And you mentioned it earlier, Gary. You talked a little bit about culture. It's something that's kind of kicked around quite a bit now. I don't know if everybody even knows what it means. Like, oh, we've got, everybody has culture. It may not be good culture, but you have culture. Do you even know what your culture is?
Yep.
As we did our DSO Leadership Summit a couple weeks back, about 3 weeks now, and every single segment we did, regardless of what it was about, it could have been M&A, and culture comes up. Like, there's that word again. So I think you have to kind of figure out what that is. Yep. And then again, back to articulation. What's that culture, and why is that a reason somebody might want to come work for you or sell their practice and become part of your group?
Yeah. And it's articulating it, to your point. It's not enough just to say we have culture. It's articulating, what is your culture? What does it mean? And then how do you tangibly deliver that to people?